back to our top story today now. Face-to-face interviews for thousands of asylum seekers could be scrapped in favour of Home Office questionnaires in a bid to cut the soaring backlog of cases, which is definitely one way to try to cut the backlog, isn't it? The plans aim to speed up the process for people from nations that typically have a high grant rate, although it might surprise you which nations they are. It includes Afghanistan and Syria, which of course are known terrorist hotspots. It's thought there are currently more than 160,000 outstanding asylum claims, and there have been questions raised over the Prime Minister and Home Secretary's claims that channel migrants are gaming the system. Well, it does come as well, and this is interesting, as the Home Office announced that 85% of all small boat migrants' modern slavery claims, so those people who come over here on the channel on small boats claiming to be victims of modern slavery, 85% of their claims are found to be legitimate. Well, joining me now is former Chief Immigration Officer at the UK Border Force, Kevin Saunders, and I've got human rights campaigner Fraser Maclean. Great stuff, both of you. Thank you very, very much. Kevin, I will start with you. Do you think that if Rishi Sunak gets his way and we don't have interviews for asylum seekers, that we would essentially have the best part of an open-door policy with some known terror hotspots?
Well, I've got to say, Patrick, when I was first told about this morning, I had to check that it wasn't the 1st of April, quite honestly. I was, I suppose, a little bit surprised that we're operating this policy. And I've spent the rest of the day trying to get stuff out of the Home Office. And in the end, I've got 28 pages about it, which is incredible. Absolutely incredible. And some of the figures that are being bandied around are just plain wrong. I see that some media outlets are saying 95% of these people get asylum, which is actually totally untrue. Less than 8% get asylum. The others get something called humanitarian protection because we can't remove them. So, you know, it's nonsense for some of these figures to be quoted because they're just plain wrong. And this modern slavery business is under review because this is being totally, absolutely mishandled. It's a complete mess, this modern slavery business.
All right, Fraser, I'll bring you in. Quite a lot for you to go out there. Your views?
Yeah, well, it shouldn't come as any surprise because this is the government's fault. Those of us in the human rights sector, I think, have probably been misrepresented to an extent. We want a bureaucratic structure that works, really. And this hasn't worked for some time. The Home Office's budget in 2018 was 25% less in terms of day-to-day spending in real terms as it was in 2010. And this is the result. It's an organisation under Suella Braverman that can't handle current-day pressure.
Yeah, but should they not interview people face-to-face, Fraser? I'll stick with you on this. You know, should it be a case of we now send a questionnaire around to a load of people from Afghanistan and Syria and say, do you want to come here? And basically, I presume if they answer yes, then they pretty much get in, Fraser. I mean, people do have massive concerns about this. Yeah,
they do. I think, to be honest, it would be ideal if we treated everyone the same. The fact the government feels they have to do this is just indicative of how much the Home Office is struggling under their leadership. And it comes from funding and it comes from poor ministerial governance from Suella Braverman and Robert Jenrick. They took responsibility for a number of young people in hotels, 200 of which have gone missing. I was at a briefing by Kent Police yesterday. They told us that already some of those children have been found forced to work in cannabis farms. So, you know, it comes back to good governance and it comes back to a lack of it under this government.
Fraser, just on that, sorry, I will go back to Kevin in a sec, but I'm just aware of a point that you've made there and I don't want to forget it. Are they definitely children, Fraser?
Yeah, so of 200, 188 or something were Albanian. A vast majority were young men under the age of 18.
And we know that because there's issues, isn't there, with certainly, for example, you know, adults being put in schools recently. Do we absolutely know that these people going missing from hotels are indeed children, Fraser?
Well, that's what the police told me, so you'd have to ask them. I think Kent Police are a trustworthy source, but there we are.
Fair enough. All right, Kevin, I'll pick up back on you now because you raised something there that I hadn't really heard too much about before. The figures when it's being bandied around about 95% being granted asylum or 85% of the people who are coming across the channel now who are being granted modern slavery, basically, their claims have been found to be legitimate. You appear to be disputing them, Kevin. What's that about?
Well, it is. It's wrong. It's basically wrong. If you actually dig into the figures, you'll find about 8% actually get asylum. Others get leave to remain. It's called humanitarian protection because they've come here, they've thrown their documents away, we have no idea who they are or where they've come from, and therefore we can't remove them. Okay. So we're stuck with them. Right. And so they're stuck in the system, and we have to do something. It's not going to grant them asylum, so we have to give them this thing called humanitarian protection.
Kevin, can I just ask you, what kind of questions are people asked in an interview, and what kind of questions would you expect them to be asked on a questionnaire? So if I've just arrived, from Afghanistan on a dinghy across the Channel, etc., and I would traditionally at some point have been interviewed by someone, presumably. What kind of thing would I be asked?
Right. Well, they'll go through a whole pile of things. They'll ask you name, address, where you've come from, your religion, why you've come to the UK, what's caused you to leave your home country, where are your family, why have you come and they've stayed at home. Why is it dangerous for you but not for them? And things all things along that line.
Okay. And because I just don't understand why we have to now devote all this time to a questionnaire. Why can't we just get more people maybe to actually interview these people? I mean, that would seem...
Well, basically, what you've got to remember is we're only interviewing people who arrived before the Borders and Nationality Act came into force, and that was 20-something of June last year. So we're interviewing the legacy people from Afghanistan, Eritrea, Libya, Syria, and the Yemen, who we know that we're going to be stuck with. So we can do it by paper, basically.
Fraser, I'll bring you back in because there are those figures, aren't there? That's 85% of people who are coming over the Channel who claim to be victims of modern slavery are actually successful in that application. I mean, what do you make of that? Because I think some people do find it quite hard to believe that if someone paid somebody thousands of pounds to travel somewhere, that they would then be the victim of modern slavery.
Well, this is where the debate has been completely lost, and it was just lost in the last answer that was given there. You asked about slavery, and immediately the answer was given about asylum. They're different. They're different matters. A very small proportion of people coming over are being referred to for slavery claims. The Tories have said a lot of these claims are being fake. The statistics that came out about modern slavery referrals this morning denied that claim, put a huge dent in it, which means that the new modern slavery laws that were brought in 2 weeks ago are now already obsolete, not that they were legitimate in the first place. So already this debate has been totally muddled. I mean, it's pretty appalling governance, and it's deliberate blurring of the rhetoric to tarnish anyone who, for whatever reason, is coming in.
OK, just to clarify, both of you, because I've got to move on, so it's pretty much a yes or no answer to this, but I just wanted to make sure we got this clear. We have got very much two sides on this debate, so we've obviously got the former border force angle there, and we've got the human rights angle. And as far as I'm aware, neither of you think it's a particularly good idea to scrap a face-to-face interview and introduce a questionnaire. Is that right, when it comes to our borders? Neither. Yeah. So we haven't got a point. Yes. Right, so Rishi Sunak has managed to alienate both sides of this argument with this policy, which I think is fascinating. Both of you, thank you very much.
It's bad government.
Well, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, to be fair. We all agree that. Thank you very much, both of you. Right, OK, that was former Chief Immigration Officer at UK Border Force, Kevin Saunders, and human rights campaigner Fraser Maclean.